The question for every executive is this: when the next generation of leaders steps up, will they be ready to lead the way you need them to? That's what our conversation is about today. Welcome to the M Squared Leadership Conversation, a space where we talk honestly about the real challenges leaders face and what it actually takes to lead well in the real world. I'm Michelle Hales.
I'm Michael Hales. Welcome in.
Glad to have you today. So we've been going through our white paper, paper that we created about what it looks like for new leaders to have kind of um, that launch pad into
Yep.
the leadership world. And we done a little study, just about 30 of our friends and that are executives that have led for many, many years across many different organizations. And we found some very interesting things, and we were able to put together a little paper about that. And so last week we talked about why we need to take care of the leaders that are in the middle
Right.
and what that looks like, how they're kind of neglected. And but today we're going to kind of speak to the executives, speak to the people who really need to be the ones to care about those middle leaders and what that might look like for
Yeah.
them. So we call it the C-suite a lot of times, the CEOs, CFOs. Those are the people that we're kind of speaking to today, but it's also entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is really to anybody who is trying to develop leaders.
Yeah, senior leaders in every type of organization out there,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be nonprofits, corporate kind of structures like you talked about, or even people who are building a business and you're the person in charge and you need to scale, you need to grow up a team around you that'll help you take things to
Mm-hmm.
the next level and get you where you want to be.
Yeah, in our paper, we call this the executive imperative, and there's just four things that we kind of touch on very briefly, but we thought we might expound on them a little bit
Let's
today.
do it.
All right. So the first one is the executive imperative is to recognize first-time leaders are strategic assets.
Hmm.
So you have to treat these roles as critical to organizational health, not as trial runs or, you know, the trial run for maybe leadership potential. These are really critical. Um, it's so critical for the health of the whole organization.
Yeah.
And these leaders are really assets. They're not um, a happenstance
No, no.
or a maybe or they're important.
I mean, maybe a good place to start with this is the old adage, and I don't know how really to attribute this. It's just, I don't know who came up with it, or, if it came from some research study, or if it's just one of those old cliches that has a lot of wisdom in it. But it's this: people don't quit jobs, they quit people, they
Mm-hmm.
quit leaders, they quit managers. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to work for or
Mm-hmm.
with this person anymore. And just from a standpoint of something that's so important these days is you want to keep your good people. They're kind of hard to come by, and you don't want some ill prepared, ill equipped leader within your organization, if you're an executive, who is damaging relationships and causing your best people to want to look elsewhere for a job. You can't afford that.
And it happens too many times.
It happens too many times.
We've got people in leadership roles that are doing a lot of damage to the organization,
Yeah.
frankly, to other people's lives.
Yes.
When it all comes down to it, this is about people. And when you're in a leadership role, you don't have to like everybody that you lead, but you do have to care about
Yeah,
everybody
you have
that
to
you lead.
respect them as a person.
You have to care about them.
Hmm.
And that means that you've got to take care of who you put in charge of these people in your
Yeah.
organization.
And it's, if you're in one of these executive positions like we're talking about and like we're speaking to in the paper, you have to care for those who are caring for those on the front lines of your organization. It just, no one is immune. Even you as as an executive leader are not immune from needing somebody to care about you.
Of course.
And that looks different at every level. If you're the person in the driver's seat, then you don't have somebody that you're directly reporting to that's responsible for doing that nurturing, but you have to find it somewhere because we're all people. We all need that.
Mhm.
And so if you're the responsible person in your organization with subordinate leaders who report to you, that's part of the job, is to care for those people so that they can care for the ones within their charge. It's a, you know, you lead by example, and that's one of the ways you do that.
I think a lot of times, and whether you're faith based or not, you can appreciate the example that Jesus set
Mhm.
with his 12 disciples.
Mhm.
Of course, he couldn't personally disciple the multitudes,
Mhm.
but he had that close 12 that he knew was going to take care of the multitudes.
He invested
And
in
he
them.
invested in them and he cared for them and he mentored them and he walked with them through their messes and through their personality traits. Those were 12 different people with 12 different personalities. Some of the personalities were spicy, like
Mhm.
Peter. Some were, more methodical and, you know, philosophy thinking.
Mhm.
But he cared for them each. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the example that we have to set. And as executives, these are strategic assets. For
Absolutely.
Jesus' mission, he wanted to save the lost.
Mhm.
And so he invested in these 12 disciples so that they then could, care for other people and it would multiply out to take care of the multitudes.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing we have to do as leaders. No, you can't be personally mentoring, people on the front line,
Mhm.
but it's going to trickle down, right?
It's a train the trainer kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
And you've got to model to them what it actually looks like
What it looks like to
to
invest in
to
people.
invest in people and to care for people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a twofold thing, and they're both closely connected. But you do it because it's the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you show others how to do it
Right.
so that they can do it because it's the right thing to
Mm-hmm.
do.
So I guess, really kind of wrapping this one up, we want to help you understand how leadership affects the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not in your business to not make money. You're not in it to go broke and
No,
barely break even.
and you're not in your business to exemplify, the paragon of leadership either. That's
Mm-hmm.
nobody.
Right.
Very few people get paid to do that,
Right.
but we do it because it works.
Right. And we do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You should be treating people and leading people well.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, you're going to reap what you sow. And because you put in this time, effort, and energy, it is going to pay off for you on the bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah. So, number one, recognize first time leaders as strategic assets.
Agreed.
All right, let's look at number two. Invest early and reinforce often.
Mm.
Development must start before or immediately upon promotion and continue throughout a leader's tenure.
Yeah. So my wheels are spinning even as and we wrote this paper months ago, but I'm getting, we're certified through Maxwell Leadership, and so we follow John Maxwell, and I know he's talked about, and the people close to him have talked about, whatever book he's writing, and there've been almost 100 of them. That's what he's most excited about right
Of course.
now. And as soon as he's finished with that, he's moved on to the next thing, and he's got a process and a cycle of doing that. But then a few books later, when you look back at what he wrote, he'll say something like, "Man, I wish I had it to do over again," because
Mhm.
in the continual process of learning and growing, there's always something else that you could have added.
Mhm.
And I'm experiencing that now with this white paper. We said in there that you should invest in your people immediately or even before they get, it's before. It's before. It's not immediately when they get
Mhm.
promoted. We need to be investing in people and developing people with an eye toward what their future holds, whether that's a leadership role or not. And we've talked before about maybe a role leading people is not what everyone aspires to. Maybe it's
Mhm.
not what everyone is best suited to
Right.
do, but whatever their next step is, we need to be investing in them now to
Absolutely.
prepare them for that, because when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare. You need to have already prepared so that you can open the door and step into whatever
Mhm.
opportunity awaits you there.
Before is definitely the best
Before is the
option.
way to go.
But if you find yourself in a position where you've
Yeah,
had to promote someone,
it's not always
you needed
best
to
case scenario. So,
fill a position, a leadership position, um, now.
and it's the whole thing. The best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Absolutely.
So if you find yourself in a position where that investment wasn't made, beforehand, do it now.
Hmm.
So important.
And one of the things that we built our business on, and we firmly believe, is that every team member actually needs leadership development. So even if someone is not aspiring to a leadership position,
Hmm.
for them to serve uh, very well and perform well in their job
And fulfill their own potential.
and fulfill their potential, they need personal development. They need
Absolutely.
to have a personal growth plan.
And
And
there are
so,
skills that are particularly useful and vital and necessary for leaders that are equally valuable for everybody, like
absolutely.
communication,
Yes.
like relationship building, like self
Emotional
awareness, emotional
intelligence.
intelligence.
Absolutely. So what that looks like is that, however your company is structured, there should be some built-in time where you're investing in every person in your organization.
Yes.
Some leadership skills are going to be needed if you're leading people, of
Hmm.
course, but everyone is leading themselves.
Hmm.
And so having that time where you can help people to be uh, emotionally intelligent. Everybody's working on a team, right? At some point, you have to interact with others to some
Well,
degree.
if we go back to Maxwell's definition of leadership, leadership is influence. And
Hmm.
there's nobody out there who has zero influence
Right.
and not influencing anyone. That
And,
doesn't happen.
I kind of go back and think about how, some, we were raised in church. So I've been in church all my life. So, the pastors always say, don't bring your kids to Sunday school and drop them off and expect us to put everything into them. So it kind of needs to start at home. The parents need
Hmm.
to be the ones. But the point I want to make with this is that when you're developing in your people, even if they're not aspiring, maybe they're just going to be a technical
Sure.
expert or just need to perform well on the job. When you're developing in them, the person as a whole. And that makes their home life better when you
Mm,
start making them more aware.
that's such a
And,
good point.
happy people and good people that are just, fulfilling their life outside of work, they're going to be better employees.
It's bigger than just investing in your employees, it's investing in people.
There you go.
And you're making people
There
better,
you go.
not just employees better. You're
That's
making
right.
people better.
And that is so rewarding. We love that
Yeah,
when
yeah.
people are growing in all aspects of their life, not just I'm performing better at work. I can do this better and
Yeah,
faster and, whatever.
that's fine, but it's a little bit shallow.
It is.
It's when you can see the bigger, broader picture of, you know, helping this person to live a more fulfilling life in
Hmm.
whatever it is that's important to
Hmm.
them.
Giving people confidence where they didn't have it before, just making them, more self aware,
Yeah.
that just builds confidence into their life. It's a beautiful thing.
Being able to enlighten them on, there's a different way, there's a better way,
Hmm.
maybe, to view whatever it is,
Absolutely.
a different, a broader perspective,
Hmm.
things like that. More meaning, adding meaning and value to people's lives.
Yes. But getting back to the actual leader,
Hmm.
they need a steady diet of
Yes,
leadership content.
yes.
And that's what we do with our business. We
Hmm.
come in and help, have the education plan for the entire year so that you can have, these topics that are recurring, or being able to recognize. The more you dig into leadership, the more you can see, oh, that's a leadership issue, that's a leadership problem, and you can then talk it out. And it's so important because we can get blind spots even in our leadership. We think we're leading the right way. We think
Yeah.
we're applying the right
And
principle.
we're all doing the best we can in the moment. But
You
here's
don't know
what,
what you don't know. And so you need all this input and the continual training and awareness and development so that you can grow, so that you can evolve as a leader.
what I've been sitting here trying to figure out how to say is, this thing is so big. Leading people effectively and the right way, and doing it well, and really maximizing your influence and your um, effectiveness in a leadership role is way more layered, more detailed. There's levels to this thing, as our friend Ryan Leake says. Um, and we would be the biggest fools ever if we thought, if we went through a leadership training course and then got out into the world and think, that's it, I have arrived, I got it all figured out. I mean, it goes back to kind of the Dunning-Kruger effect that I love, which says, if you're not familiar with that, it's like this phenomenon that happens to people, that the less you know about a subject, the smarter you think you are. And the more you learn, the more you realize there is still to learn. And your opinion of your own self kind of gets less in terms of how much about this subject I know, the more you learn about it. And
Hmm.
it's the same way with leadership.
Hmm.
So um, we're all just a little foolhardy if we think we've got it figured out and we've arrived. There's much, much, much more
Hmm.
to learn.
Hmm.
And the other important part of this is, it's easy for us to sit here from our little bully pulpit and say, hey, everybody out there watching this, you should be investing in your people. And it's easy maybe for you to just nod along and say, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I need to be doing that. It's easy to say that.
Hmm.
It's a lot harder to actually do
It
it.
is.
It takes a lot of effort. It takes
Takes a lot of effort.
investment.
You've got to find the time.
Hmm.
When can everybody be off the clock, kind of thing, but still on the clock? When
Yeah.
can you bring people together? Um, and it's one of those things that sometimes it's so hard to do and not keep the business going. You feel like you can't afford to take,
Yeah.
but it's so important. I mean, it can't be ignored. And people that do ignore it, they're keeping a lid on their leadership.
Hmm.
And but the more you can develop that hunger in your people for growing,
Mm.
it doesn't take a lot, but once you spark that hunger,
Whet that appetite.
yeah. And you'll find that there's probably a little bit of resistance in the beginning for people
Well,
to stop and take time to come
yeah.
into a room and talk about things that's not really getting the job done. I've seen the resistance in that before. People will be like, "Why are we in here talking about this?
Hmm.
It's not really that important."
Right.
But once people start realizing, "Oh, I operate this way, and it rubs people the wrong way, but if I tweak it a little bit, I can understand." Oh, now I know why I do that, because blah blah blah. And if I do this, then that'll happen, and that'll help my relationship. and you see how it starts really making the work so much more productive and rewarding for people. And that's how you whet their appetite, is when people start learning about themselves and start learning to stop and care about those around them. Then it all starts working together like a very well-oiled machine.
And make no mistake, this is not a any sort of a quick fix for any of the things that we're talking
Mhm.
about. It's a process. It takes time. It's playing the long game.
Yes.
It really is. But that's what's going to differentiate you and your organization if you do this thing right from everybody else.
Hmm.
In the long term, you're going to win
Hmm.
because, like you said, you're going to get that over time. That well-oiled machine, your efficiency, your effectiveness are all going to go up
Hmm.
because of the aha moments that people are going to have in the process of doing this kind of investment and training and
Hmm.
teaching and all of this that you're doing for your
Hmm.
people. It's not going to happen in an instant,
Hmm.
but it will happen over time, and it's going to pay dividends.
Yeah.
No question.
I'm a practical person. I like to know the one, two, three. How do we get from here to there? I like to go from theory to action.
Hmm.
So if you're wondering what that might really look like, and you're like, yeah, that's great. Okay. But where do I begin?
Hmm.
We'd love to talk to you about that. Some of the practical ways that you can do it, just to give you a little inside peek, is a monthly lunch and learn or a weekly lunch and learn, if that
Yeah,
would work.
whatever frequency works
And
for your
even if
team.
you had to break it into team A, team B, because you've got to keep, the ship running during the day or something for the lunch and learns, everybody can't take a lunch break at the same time, that sort of thing. There's ways to work it,
Sure.
that can be done. We do a leadership lab, which is just an hour discussing a book. And that can be done, we do it from 8 to 9 on Tuesdays and from 5 to 6 on Thursdays. Um, and those are different ways that it could be done. And that's via Zoom. You don't even have to have anybody come in.
Hmm.
But there's all different kinds of ways. Once a month or once a quarter, you set up a workshop
Hmm.
where, this is not like every day you've got to bring people in and, you know, kind of thing. But putting something intentionally
And
on the
being
calendar
systematic
and
about
just
it.
having a systematic plan, that's what's going to work.
Yeah,
Invest early, reinforce often.
absolutely.
All right, let's go to number 3. We're going to measure what matters. Okay. And that's when we use data, engagement scores, retention rates, performance metrics,
Hmm.
to track the real world impact of your leadership pipeline. We don't like to do these things because sometimes it can be vague in how we can measure if somebody is really leading well.
Hmm.
But there are ways to get that done.
Yeah. Employee engagement surveys, things like that. The best, smartest leaders are going to be in touch with.
Hmm.
There are ways to get at that
Hmm.
kind of data, that kind of information, and we need to be taking advantage of that because we know what you're thinking. If you're a senior leader out there listening to this, is okay, what's the bottom line
Hmm.
here? Um,
Hmm.
and so
And
it's important to know that so you can have some sort of justification for what you're doing.
yeah, we have done surveys. We do anonymous surveys sometimes in the beginning with companies,
Hmm.
and that lets us get at what the glaring problem is in leadership, where the employees are feeling um, the most uncertain,
Hmm.
uh, their fears, their anxiety about working in this workplace. And that's important. And people sometimes, an outside organization that does anonymous surveys where they can feel like there will be no retaliation. That's really important. That's a way that you can get at some data and see what's really going on. A lot of employees will just show up and nod their head because they don't want to rock the boat. This is their
Yeah.
lifeline. But there's different strategic points that you can use and data that you can pull in that'll get at this data that helps you understand where you really are.
And don't discount the importance of just having conversations with your people
Absolutely.
as well. That's a
And
real source of, I think, untapped source of data and information for executives that we don't really take advantage of. Is just having conversations. And sometimes you, like you said, people are not going to volunteer. I'm feeling a certain way about blah blah blah. But if you get them in a conversation, you start asking some kind of pointed questions. Sometimes it takes that to really uncover what's really happening in an organization or on a team.
another thing that we've done that helps get at this a little bit is we play the leadership game.
Hmm.
And it's different little scenarios that you'll read out and you'll ask specific questions about how do you operate when something like this happens. And you, so having an outside person like us in
Hmm.
there, and especially Michael, I think this is probably my wheelhouse a lot because I have kind of discernment and intuition. When people say things, I can read body language really well, and like something behind there is kind of bothering them, or
You're a
that sort of
very
thing.
intuitive
Yeah,
person.
I'm very intuitive, so that helps. But playing that game and having an outside source kind of looking on, mannerisms that people inside are so used to people having can be little alarms or red flags for
Yeah,
people that are outside looking in.
yeah.
I think that's the important. And I'm not trying to like sell all our products right now. I'm really not, but
No,
I'm
but
just
it's a
trying
good
to
point.
demonstrate what it looks like when you're intentional, and what it looks like to really get at the data, because these are soft skills.
Hmm.
You can't say how many times did they say the word whatever in a day, or just because they got the spreadsheet submitted on time does not mean that they led well or got you know it's hard sometimes to think, how are you going to get at this data? But the data's there, I promise.
Yeah, yeah.
the
And go ahead.
the results are there. I mean, you're seeing the results play out every day in people's interactions and their moods, their engagement, how many times they're calling out.
Yeah.
Do they have a pattern of missing certain days when certain things are going on? So, those are the kinds of things you can pick up on. And especially if you had a consultant that could come in, there's so many times when we're leading, we're just so used to people's personalities
When
and
you're
their
in it,
nuances. Hmm.
you just like you. There's the thing of becoming nose blind to
Hmm.
the aroma that's in your own house where you
Hmm.
live. The same kind of thing happens on the job.
Hmm.
It's just you see it so often, you don't see it anymore.
Hmm.
What I was going to say a minute ago is if people aren't familiar with the leadership game, it sounds like kind of a generic term, but it's a Maxwell Leadership proprietary product where the team kind of gamified many of the teachings and principles of John Maxwell from his books and things and put it in a game format. And it's just kind of a fun, interactive
Hmm.
experience where we bring members of the team around a table and you roll a die and you have cards and you just follow the instructions on the card. You earn points
Get to reward each other with points
and
for good
you
answers. And
actually play a game.
hmm.
And in the process of playing a game and getting the competitive juices going
Hmm.
and all of that, you can reveal some things that
Yes.
would tend to stay hidden
Hmm.
under ordinary
Right.
circumstances. So
It's wonderful.
just wanted to say a little bit more about that in
Yeah,
case
and
people don't
that's
know.
a good way to get at some of the data for sure. All right, and then let's go on to number 4, which is probably one of my favorites. Model the culture you expect.
Mm.
Leaders emulate the behavior they see modeled from above. If your executives embody openness, accountability, and a growth mindset, then those values will cascade.
And of course, it goes without saying you lead by example,
Yeah.
but often we can be tempted to overlook it.
Hmm.
And well, I was just busy and I had to do blah 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 because outside pressures and whatever. But no, we can't use those kinds of things as excuses. We have to
Mm-hmm.
do it. If we have expectations of our subordinate leaders to lead the right way, then we can't excuse ourselves from leading the right way as
Right.
well.
That's so good. And what I can't help but think about is, why should I expect something of my leaders that I'm not really doing myself?
You can't.
And I need to be so mindful of, again, investing in these middle leaders, and it's going to cast down to the front line where it really puts into effect and affects your bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, sometimes I feel bad about going to the money part of it because I care about people so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be about money.
Right.
But none of us are in business to go broke or to barely break
That's a
even. We're
reality.
not. We want to make money at this. And when we love these people, when we care about them, you don't always have to be in love with the people that you're leading. You don't always have to like the people that you're leading. You just got to care about them. You
Gotta
got to
value them.
care that they have a good place to come work, that you're adding value to them. And when you add value to them, it increases their loyalty to you. It increases the loyalty to the company. It helps with their engagement is going to go up. But, we've said this before, culture is not what you want the company to be. It's what the company actually is doing.
It's what's happening in real time.
And you have to develop culture. You have to cultivate it. You have to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, these imperatives for executives, I think, are really important and help us. They really get us in there.
100%.
So let's go back over them really quickly, and then we'll try to bring this to a close. The executive imperative is to recognize first-time leaders as strategic assets, and to invest early and reinforce often, to measure what really matters, and to model the culture you expect. You got anything else to add, Michael?
No, I think this has been a good conversation, and something that struck me as this whole thing, this white paper we did was to kind of support our product, our new leader launchpad that we developed, and we may have news on that coming pretty soon. So just drop a quick teaser there. Um, Stay tuned for more on that. But the there's more than one way to look at that. The idea is to invest in new leaders and get them off on a good foot so that they're able to lead well immediately when they assume that leadership position. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to look at the new leader himself or herself and think about all that they're responsible. You got to learn this, and you got to develop this skill set, and this, that, and the other. But there's always another angle, and this: if I'm the leader who has promoted that person, I bear a great deal of responsibility to equip them, and to, yes, they have responsibility, and it's not, they're not just going to sit there passively and absorb everything and become this dynamic leader just because it's going to take some effort on their part. Mm-hmm. Their part, of course it is, but I have responsibility too. I've got to make the tools available. I've got to make the investment in them to give them a chance to excel, to succeed, to do well, to do all the things. So we can't just assign responsibility to the learner. The teacher has to bear responsibility as well. And as the executive, I have that responsibility.
And there's probably some executives out there or business owners out there that are saying, I've got leaders in place that have been in place for years
Hmm.
and I never gave them any training.
It's not too late.
It's not. So it's not necessarily the new leader, it's any leader that needs like a refresher course
Hmm.
or just, this could really be for anybody that
Hmm.
just wants to sharpen their leadership skills and kind of, hey, I'm going to go back to the basics. Like,
Hmm.
in it, what was the guy, Vince Lombardi, that's like, this is a football?
Yeah. So Vince Lombardi, the longtime coach of the Green Bay Packers back in the day, the legend is that this was a championship winning coach. He's legendary, and so the story is that every time he they'd be in the off season, they'd come back together for preseason camp, and he would start off with the fundamentals. And you can't get more fundamental than, gentlemen, this is a football.
Right.
So yeah, it's never too late, and starting with the fundamentals is always a good place to
Mhm.
start.
Yeah. So if you're a business owner out there or an executive and you're worried that, I've put leaders in place and never really prepared them for leadership roles, now's the time.
Don't beat
Just
yourself
jump
up.
in.
Just do
Yeah,
something about it now.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we want to just thank you for spending a few minutes with us in the M Squared Leadership Conversation. Leadership isn't about having all the answers, it's about being willing to ask better questions. So until next time, stay curious, lead well, and keep the conversation going. Bye, guys.